Respected, good evening, respected Dr. K. Kudalingam, Dr. Bharat Krishna Shankar, Dr. A. Selvaraj, Dr. Davamani Christopher, Dr. R. Subramanian, Dr. C. Ramasubramanian, Mrs. Rajkumari Ramasubramanian, Mr. Tulsiraj, Chitra Tulsiraj, Varalakshmi Balakrishnan from Arvind Eye Care Systems, members of the press, and my dear friends. April 27th, 2017. Exactly this day last year, 1 year back, my life changed forever. How did it change? My husband, Dr. T.R. Murli, died of suicide. I'd like you to note, I'm not saying he committed suicide. Instead, I'm saying he died of suicide. It was a death due to suicide. Why? Because this is precisely the kind of conversations we should be having about suicide. Committing suicide, if I use the word he committed suicide, it implies that Dr. Murli was a criminal. No, he was anything but a criminal. He was one of the finest professionals I have known. And suicide is certainly not a crime. It's certainly not a sin. Before I proceed any further, let me ask you a question. You need not reply to it, but you can stay with that question. Supposing someone in your family were to die of suicide, and people being inquisitive, will ask you, how did that person die? What would you tell them? Would you tell them the cause of the death? Or would you try to dress it up and say that, oh no, it was a death due to natural causes. He or she died of, a cardiac arrest? I'd like you to stay with the answer because these are questions which Speak would like to engage with. But before that, let me tell you what happened to me. When this happened, I was overcome with a sense of shame. I felt deeply ashamed. I felt, oh my God, what would I tell others? What would I tell the family? What would I tell my friends? Would they judge me? Would they speculate about why this happened? Would they judge Dr. Murli? You know, in those very few moments when the lifeless body of Dr. Murli and I were at home, before the whole world descended on us, in those very few precious moments, when for the last time it was him and I decided, I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak no matter what. I decided, I'm going to tell the truth. After all, there was nothing for me to be ashamed of. There was nothing in Dr. Murli's life to be ashamed of. So, if I look back today, that was the exact moment when Speak was born. Because I felt truth is truth. Truth needed to be told. And for me, it's all about living life authentically. Leading a very authentic life. That was the exact moment when Speak was born. But let me tell you, it was easier said than done. No decision is consequence-free. And I knew that there would be consequences of my taking a very bold decision. I remember telling this to Dr. CRS that day. I forgot. He reminded me very gently many months later that I must speak about it. And after the funeral, Dr. CRS told me something which really provided me the anchor. It provided me a rock to which I clung on because my life, I was drowning in a turbulent ocean of grief. There was nothing left for me to cling on. Murli was the axis of my life. And today, this very day last year, I was plunged into grief. And Dr. CRS told me, Nandini, just one chapter in your life is over. That your role of a wife has come to an end. There are many more glorious chapters in your life waiting to be written. But for that to happen, this had to happen. That has been a guiding mantra, a lighthouse, a rock which helped me stay afloat, which helped me stay steady. Speak has been composted in my grief, pain, and anguish. It has been watered in my tears of sorrow and deep pain, which I don't think I'll ever find words to express the extent and depth of my pain. But that said and done, 1 year later, when I think I have traveled reasonably far in my journey, I decided that Speak must come about. And permit me to take you through a very short presentation about the evolution of Speak, the objectives, and what Speak intends to do. Yes, this was the most profound tragedy I would ever face in my life. One of my favorite writers, Margaret Mitchell, put it very memorably. Life is under no obligation to give us what we want. Trust me, I got nothing I wanted in life, but instead I got everything I needed to face many tragedies in my life, many setbacks. This is not, but this is the ultimate, I would say. This tops it all. But I got everything to face these challenges which life very often throws our way. That's Dr. Murli, for those who may not know him. That quote by Robert Browning sums up exactly how he lived his life. He always believed in a quest for precision, passion, and purpose. But a man's reach should exceed his grasp. Or what's a heaven for? Dr. Murli was an eminent urologist. He had been to some of the topmost medical schools in the country, a brilliant student. He was one of those who was always first from LKG to MCH. He went to Jupma where he did his undergraduation, went on to Maulana Azhar Medical College where he did his masters in general surgery, and his ambition was to be a urologist, and he completed his MCH in urology from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where he got in with competing for one open seat in the All India category. This was in 1986, and as a urologist, he was regarded by his peers and by people who didn't like him as well as one of the best urologists in the country. He was a marvelously skilled surgeon. He was a gifted surgeon. He had the most healing hands. He just had to lay his hands on a patient and wow, they would be healed. His areas of professional interest include andrology, which was the study of male sexual dysfunction, of which he was one of the pioneering andrologists in the country. Pediatric urology, he loved children, and nothing brought him greater joy than to see smiles on faces of children whose lives were marred by illness. And of course, renal transplant. I've heard, actually, I'm not qualified to comment on Dr. Murli's professional expertise, but I would eavesdrop on conversations, and this is how I claim that even cardiac surgeons would say that the finest anastomosis is joining of the blood vessels, which are so fragile. The finest anastomosis will be done by Dr. Murli. He was a recipient renal transplant surgeon, and he had done about more than 15,000 renal transplants in his career. And most important, he was a fantastic teacher. He had trained over 25 postgraduates in urology, all of them who are doing exceptionally well today, and teaching was his passion. He lived for urology, and I would say that his devotion to patient care, to his patients was fabulous, and I was privileged to share 33 years of my life watching excellence from a very ringside perspective. Precision, passion, and purpose. And that was not all to him. He was a person of exceptional taste, a very finely developed sense of aesthetics, and a great sense of humor for those who knew him well. That was Dr. Murli, the professional. No one ever told me, yes, no one told me that grief felt so much like fear. The early days of coping with the tragedy were extremely difficult for me. I was completely unanchored, completely unmoored. You had to experience it to believe it. Even after a year, it still feels very fresh in my memory. My grief was oceanic. It was a free fall into an ocean into a bottomless ocean. And it was like being ambushed by grief. I would never know when it would hit me. Grief, what is grief? Grief is an emotion we feel when we lose someone close to us. It's a combination of different emotions. You feel sad, you feel depressed, you feel angry, you feel so many different emotions. Because life as you know it is no longer there. That person who meant so much to you is no longer there. So it's all about having to relearn how to live again, which is very, very difficult, especially in a case where today I'm speaking as a survivor of suicide loss. I hadn't heard of this term before. Yes, actually, until suicide happened in my family, it was something which would happen to other people, to other families. It can't happen to me. I'd heard of suicides reported in the media. I'd heard of celebrity suicides. I'd heard of friends who said someone in their family died of suicide, but it was so hush-hush. The sense of shame, secrecy, silence and stigma. This is what I associated with suicide. And therefore, this is what Speak is going to directly address in so many ways, in more ways than one. That was my oceanic grief. And of course, one way I am able to get to where I am today was by embracing my grief. I didn't try to fight it. I didn't try to battle it. Somehow, I quite dislike all those militaristic metaphors. Instead, I embraced grief. I surrendered to grief. I just yielded to grief. Let it wash over me. Let it ambush me. But that's how I learned to listen to what was the lessons grief was trying to teach me about myself, about the partner who I miss so much, and who I think I will forever miss. Yes, when one person is missing, the whole world seems empty. That was that is Malli. That is the golden retriever I gifted Dr. Murli for our last wedding anniversary. And he simply loved Malli. And this was a picture of hers which I shot. And this was a picture which he really loved. Malli meant a lot to him. Suicide victims, let's face it, they're not weak, they're not selfish, they're not cowards, they're not heroes, they're not demons. They are people in great pain. People who choose death over living because their pain is unbearable. Their pain is so intense that death seems to be a preferable alternative. We need to raise awareness about suicide, not stigma. My inspiration is Dr. Shanti Ranganathan, the iconic psychiatric social worker who set up a T.T. Ranganathan Research Foundation, again based on her personal tragedy. I had the opportunity to interact with her when I was a journalist, and I was simply struck by her grace, her strength, her fortitude and resilience. Little did I realize that she would certainly be an example in my own journey through grief. Yes, she's been truly inspirational, she's been phenomenal. Another inspiration for me has been my colleague and friend, Priya Babu. Priya Babu is a transgender activist, theatre artist, and she set up the Transgender Resource Center in Madurai with very meager resources, backed by an enormous desire to reach out to people who really need her help. Suicide, a very quick take, I'm taking you very quickly through this. It's a global phenomenon. Close to 800,000 people die to suicide every year. That makes it one person every 40 seconds. Suicide occurs throughout the lifespan of an individual. It's the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds globally. Suicide mortality rate in India is 15.7 with a regional average of 12.9. This is the WHO statistics. And this is a map which shows the 8 standardized suicide rates. As you can see, India has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. Suicide in India, this is the National Crime Records Bureau. 15 suicides took place every 1 hour in 2015. And maximum number of suicides were reported in Maharashtra. Interesting for us, Tamil Nadu is ranked second. Puducherry reported the highest rates of suicide, followed by Sikkim, Andaman and Nicobar, and Telangana and Chhattisgarh. Suicide rates in cities was higher compared to the all India suicide rate. Among the, again interesting for us, among the 53 megacities, Chennai tops. And these were some of the reasons cited as causes for suicide: family problems, illness, and failure in examination, especially among the student population. So, what is Speak's vision? Speak has a vision of creating a suicide-free world where mental health and well-being is a way of life. We are driven by a mission to prevent needless deaths due to suicide by creating spaces for informed conversations on suicide and thereby promote mental health. Objectives: to address myths, misconceptions, taboo, secrecy, shame and silence on suicide through awareness and sensitization programs and public campaigns. This is going to be a major objective for Speak. To mobilize social support for prevention, intervention and post-vention efforts. As a survivor of suicide loss, when I was dealing with my grief, I found that there is nothing. For the first time I discovered the word post-vention. And I found that there was no post-vention services available for people like me in India. I am a member of an online support group for survivors of suicide loss, and that was incredibly healing for me because I was able to interact with several people like me who've gone through the same experience. It gave me a lot of solidarity, it gave me a lot of support because I knew that, oh, I'm not alone. There are other people like me, people who've walked this path, people who've dealt with this, people who've emerged out of this tragedy very strong. So creating post-vention services would be another major area for Speak. We would also engage in research, policy and advocacy initiatives to broaden our understanding of suicide and create a convergence of different stakeholders to prevent suicides and minimize its impact on survivors of suicide loss. Strategies we would be using is awareness programs, early identification and treatment. Chelmuthu Trust has the treatment wing of Chelmuthu Trust and Research Foundation. The Ahana hospitals would be the focal point for providing treatment for people with suicidal ideation. We would offer online and offline support groups for survivors of suicide loss. Books. I'm working on my book of coping with suicide as a survivor of suicide loss. Blogs. We plan to have a bi-weekly blog, a monthly e-newsletter, have a strong online presence through social media strategy, videos, suicide prevention hotline services, for people who are suicidally ideated, for people to reach out for help, inspirational talks, resilience workshops. When we go to schools, colleges and corporates, we'd like to focus on resilience. Resilience, I would define resilience, it's commonly defined as bouncing back, but I would say it's bouncing forward after a tragedy, after a loss, after a very challenging situation. So how do we build resilience in different population groups? How do we build resilience of kids? How do we build resilience of adolescents? How do we build resilience of young adults? How do we build resilience of older adults? We need to tell our kids life is not just going to be funky-dory or hunky-dory always. There are going to be ups and downs, there are going to be disappointments, but how do we look at it? I'm ever fond of this line, although I know it's cliched, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Trust me, there is nothing better you can do. You can sweeten it with adding all the sugars, but you have to make the lemonade. There's no point griping, groaning, moaning that, oh well, this happened to me. And grief retreats. I've been attending a couple of very effective grief retreats in the last 1 year, which has helped me process my grief. And I would love to create similar grief retreats for people, not only for survivors of suicide loss, but people who face any kind of grief. My own understanding is we have a very poor understanding of how to cope with grief and loss. Loss doesn't always have to be the loss of someone, even the loss of a job is a huge loss. The loss of a pet is a huge loss. So how do we deal with loss? And research, programmatic collaborations with universities, with medical colleges. We're very interested in exploring collaborations with Madurai Kamaraj University, with Arizkabad University, and the White Swan Foundation, which is a mental health portal based in Bangalore, is very interested in partnering with Speak. They have evolved a mental health and well-being module for schools, which has already been piloted in Karnataka, and they're very interested in implementing it in Tamil Nadu through partnership with Speak. Of course, these are the various kinds of social media platforms, the digital media strategies Speak would be using. The website is already live, it's functional, it's going to be inaugurated in a few minutes. We would be have a visible presence on Twitter, Facebook. There would be an online support group for survivors of suicide loss, Instagram, and blogs where I would be blogging twice a week. So these are the kind of the ways in which we are leveraging technology in reaching out to people. Before I conclude, yes, one needs to be like the lotus, trust in the light, grow through the dirt, and believe in new beginnings. And as we all know, the lotus blooms only when it is mired in quagmire, when it is mired in dirt. The lotus doesn't bloom when the surroundings are brilliantly clean. These are my favorite, three of my favorite people. Vincent van Gogh, the celebrated Dutch artist, my favorite painter. Well, Dr. Murli, of course. And then, of course, Ernest Hemingway, my favorite writer. His novella, just 100 pages, won him the Nobel Prize. In creative writing classes, we are often told, if you could write one word like Ernest Hemingway. I know I'm no longer there, I'm nowhere there, but these are the kind of people who've inspired me, who've influenced me. Why have I located Dr. Murli in between them? Well, the fact that he was my spouse is just not the reason, though of course here in this context, of course it is contextual, but all three people died of suicide. But we remember them not for the way they died, but for the kind of lives they've led, the kind of professional legacy they've left behind. So that's how we need to remember, and that's how I would like Dr. Murli to be remembered, as a fine person, as a fine human being. And from today onwards, I guess Dr. Murli will speak through Speak, and Speak would be also part of his enduring legacy. Yes. By definition, I always like to end on a note of hope. I'm an incorrigible optimist. I know where I get it from. I get it from my parents. It's too bad, but then suicide by definition is 100% preventable. We need to speak up, we need to reach out. Together, let's break the secrecy, shame, silence and stigma around suicide. Every voice matters. Preventing suicide is everyone's business, not just that of mental health professionals alone. Together, we certainly can make the world a better place than it is now. Here, this was very interesting. I love this quote, all art is autobiographical, the pearl is the oyster's biography. Just less than a month back, I think 2 weeks back, I was at Dhanushkodi and I was walking by the sea. The sea has been such an integral part of my life in the last 1 year. It seems I hadn't planned to go to Dhanushkodi, but it just happened. And as I was walking on the seashore, I saw a fisherman who had was returning from the sea, and he had this oyster shell with him. It had about 7 pearls embedded in it. I was standing there, and he walked up to me and said, "This is for you." And to me, it seemed very metaphorical, it seemed very symbolic, because it seemed as if it was a gift from the sea. And I think all wisdom is nothing but healed pain. Before I conclude, this is not a formal thank you. It is not possible for me to be where I am today and to talk what I am talking without the love and support of these few people who surrounded me with their love, affection, compassion, and actually enveloped me in a circle of love. Yes, I'm indebted because I have the great divine grace and presence which has helped me show through this, which has helped me anchor myself. I'd like to acknowledge my indebtedness to my spiritual guru, Sri Guru Rohit Arya, whose compassion, love and generosity has provided me all the salve my soul needed this 1 year, and the mother and Sri Aurobindo of the Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry, my spiritual mentors. Then, for my parents, Amma and Appa, for many things, but most of all, for the gift of a beautiful childhood, for sowing the seeds of resilience back early then. Your grace, your dignity and courage, you've led by example. It was very difficult not to be inspired by seeing that day in and day out. And in the last 1 year, I know this is not thank you, Amma and Appa, but you've made it possible for me to do what I am today. My mama, 95 years old, who has known me from the time I was born. Mama was here last week for Dr. Murli's first annual ceremony. At 95, he chose to be here. And that, I think, is simply an expression of the unconditional love and affection he has for me. For my brother Venkatesh, the other half of my sunny childhood. Great fun, the world's bestest brother. His resilience, his courage and optimism are qualities I really admire in him. I so wish he had been here today. I don't think I've ever told him that he has been an inspiration for his resilience and optimism, but I'm sure he'll get to hear this. Bhuvna, my sister-in-law, actually my sister-in-love, for being the magnificent, wonderful person she is. My nephew Anirudh, for all the laughter and joy, for helping me experience parenthood proxy. My wonderful cousin Sriram, who's been here, who's been with me in the early days of the grief, and my paternal uncle, Dr. C.R. Kannan, who, despite being across the Atlantic, was always just a phone call away. Dr. C.R.S. and his family. What can I say? But I think I would leave many things unsaid, because I feel the best and the most beautiful things in the world can only be felt and experienced. They cannot be conveyed in words. Dr. C.R.S. especially, thank you for your wisdom, your compassion, your love. Rani ma'am, for opening your doors, the doors of your home and your heart. It was a free, I could just walk in anytime, walk out anytime. For Dr. Vikram, for just being there with me every single day in the initial phase. I don't think I can ever forget all that. Dr. R. Selvi, my wonderful young friend, for all our lovely conversations, for crowning me as the poster girl of resilience of NS Chelmuthu Trust and Research Foundation. That's a very heavy crown. Sometimes that crown totters and I'm afraid it might fall off, so I'm holding on to it. It's tough. To the Fomra family, Vidya auntie, Mamta, Bunty, Devesh and Purvi. Mamta for being my soul sister, for just being there for me every single day. To my good friend Dr. R. Subramani, for our conversations on Vedantic literature, books, for just being there unconditionally the last 1 year. I'd also like to thank Chelmuthu Trust and Research Foundation for opening space, for creating space for me. In particular, Professor G. Gurubharti, who has worked actually with me, tirelessly with me in the last 2-3 months in helping Speak Shape and who's just been just a phone call away. To P. Rajasoundrapandian and S. Selumani for logistical support. I'd like to thank my psychotherapist, Macklin Jairatnam, Dr. Mohan Raj and S. Anand, and the psychotherapeutic group I'm part of, Circle of Love, for just supporting me unconditionally. And my own little family now, which includes Dhananjayan, Ishwari, Malli and Minnal, are my 2 dogs. See, it's very difficult for me to move away from we to I. You know, I still tend to use the plural. I guess I don't know when my circuitry will adapt to saying it's I, but it's we. Anyway, it's our lovely dogs, Minnal and Malli. And last, but certainly not least, for Dr. T.R. Murali. It was a privilege having shared my life with him. He was my greatest teacher. Helped me grow enormously. I'll miss all that passion, that excellence. He could just go straight as an arrow when there was a goal. And I think part of the legacy for Speak is to live up to those impossible standards he had set. And from today onwards, Dr. Murali would be speaking through Speak. And thank you everyone for listening to me for this great opportunity. I'm deeply honored. Thank you.